we want to go. There we go. Good. So as you've noticed, we're going to record this program, and we will have this on the foundation YouTube page a little bit later. So you're welcome to go back and reference it if Curtis says something you actually absolutely want to go back and remember a bit more. It will be there, or you can share it with friends later on. So thank you again so much for joining us today. My name is Katie Wright, and I am the coordinator of fund development with Ottawa County Parks and the Ottawa County Parks Foundation. So we're super happy to have you all here today. Pardon me. For those of you that don't know, the Ottawa County Parks Foundation is an independent 501c3 organization established to support Ottawa County Parks and Recreation Commission. The foundation is currently celebrating its 10th anniversary this year. Over the last decade, the foundation has raised, get this, $13 million. Over $13 million in 10 years, the foundation has been able to raise to support your Ottawa County Parks and Rec. These funds have been used to extend your millage dollars, allowing Ottawa County Parks and Recreation to acquire critical pieces of park property, enhance parks through capital projects such as the recent Ottawa Sands project and the Rosie Mound project, the current Rosie Mound project. The foundation also supports access to health and wellness programming, education programming, and natural resource management programming. To get more information on the Parks Foundation and how to become a supporting member, visit our website. And Angela's going to drop that information in the chat. Thank you. She already did it. You can click on that link in the chat and learn all about the foundation if you're not familiar with us already. In gratitude to our foundation donors and those that are just visiting us today, we're starting a new series called Parks and Purpose. This is a series of programs where our foundation donors and their friends get to join us for some sneak peeks and behind the scenes information. We're going to bring you up close with some of our park staff and learn some of those behind the scene things that you might not regularly get access to through some of the park's public programming. But before we get started with our program today, just want to go over a quick couple Zoom housekeeping items. We're going to ask all members to keep your microphones on mute. We're going to save questions and answers for at the end. We're going to let Curtis do his presentation, and then we're going to save some space for Q&A at the end. But feel free to drop those questions in the chat as we go. And then we'll get back to them. If you're thinking of something and don't want to forget, just put it in the chat and we'll try to get back to it when we get to the Q&A. So I hope that for those of you who are up in Michigan, or we've got some folks down in, hopefully it's sunny down in Pensacola, but we had a wonderful sunny day yesterday. We're a little bit on the gray skies and potential snow today. But all of that had a wonderful Valentine's weekend this past weekend, which makes me think of ways that we get to cherish the things that we adore, whether it is our loved ones or the things that we love. So we always suggest that in the month of February, we think about ways that we can either give to our community or to our loved ones, and whether that is through time, treasure, or talent, whether it's volunteering at church or donating to your Parks Foundation or sending a special note to your kids or grandkids. We encourage you to do a little something extra in February to show your appreciation, gratitude, and love towards the things that you care most deeply about. So Now, let's get to it. You all came to hear about bald eagles. So here we go. So excited to have Curtis Dykstra with us here today. I would bet that we have a few folks in here that already know Curtis. Maybe there's some Mug Club members. Maybe they've joined Coffee and the Bird. So you may know some of this, but maybe not. Curtis grew up in Grand Rapids, Michigan, often traveling and exploring the outdoors with his family. He graduated from, is it Dordt College? Is that how you pronounce it? Okay, Dordt College in Sioux Center, Iowa, with a degree in environmental studies. His experience as an educator and naturalist includes being a teacher, state park ranger in Eastern North Carolina, and assistant director of outdoor education at Camp Roger in Rockford, Michigan. I remember going to Camp Roger. Since 2013, Curtis has served as the park's naturalist and program supervisor for Ottawa County. He is an avid birder and traveler and delights in sharing his passion for birds and nature with others. So, Curtis, we are so happy to have you join us for a lunchtime here. I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you so much for having me. And I'm going to share my screen here so I can give you the presentation. Let's see, everybody seeing that okay?
Looks good. Thank you, Curtis.
Right, let me make sure I've got my own view. Okay, we're good on my view. And there we go. I have to get myself in the right mode. There we go. Well, a special welcome to all of you who are, well, welcome to all of you, but a special welcome to those of you who got invited via the Mug Club this year. So I want to say a toast to those of you who are Mug Club members. Yes, I've got my mug right here. If you have yours, you can toast as well. But we appreciate your membership and support of the Coffee with the Birds program and feeding the birds at the feeders with your Mug Club membership. Not only did you get this mug, but if you haven't picked up your pin already, we have them available. All you need to do is come by the Nature Center, show your mug, or if you forgot your mug, you can tell us your name and we'll look it on the list and make sure you remember and we'll get you your pin at no additional cost. If you're not a Mug Club member and you're interested, you can get these things too. It's $25 to join the Mug Club. I would love to have you join us. Just look up miottawa.org/birding and you'll find the link to the Mug Club information there. But you all didn't join to just hear about the Mug Club. You all, many of you are in the Mug Club. You joined to hear about bald eagles. And that is what we're going to talk about today. I like to say bald eagles beyond the symbol, because the first thing we talk about when we talk about eagles is the symbol that they are here for us in the United States. A regal symbol that we have pride in and joy in, about the pride of our nation and all of those things. But there's a lot more to bald eagles than just that being a symbol. And maybe some of those things you did not yet know. And so we're going to explore some of those things in this program. Come on, which side? There we go. So one of the things I like to do in programs is investigate the name first. What in the world, how in the world did they get a name like bald eagle? Well, when you say bald eagle, that when you look at this bird, it's pretty obvious. Their white head makes them look like they're bald. They're not actually bald. Turkey vultures, however, they are bald on the head, but eagles are not. So the bald eagle gets its name because of its white head. It's a misnomer because they are not actually bald. Eagle is from the ancient word aquila, meaning dark bird. So this relates back to even the old world, way long ago. And because obviously there are eagles around the world, but that word then has been translated into English and used here in North America. And many of the eagles are large, dark birds. Heliaetus leucocephalus. Oh my goodness, maybe you didn't know that that's the actual name of the bald eagle. So when we talk names, we have to talk scientific names. The scientific Latin name for bald eagle is Heliaetus leucocephalus. And that is so that we all know worldwide what we're talking about when we talk about it, when we're talking about bald eagles, because there's so many colloquial names and English varies from other languages around the world. This is the one language, Latin, that all of the biologists will follow. So Heliaetus leucocephalus, what in the world does that mean? Well, in Latin, Halle means sea, and Aetus means eagle. Leuco means white, and cephalus means head. Wow, that's pretty easy, right? White-headed sea eagle. There is a family, Heliaetus is a family of eagles called sea eagles, and you'll find them around the world, and they all have a similar look to our bald eagle. Oftentimes with white heads with varying amounts of white and things, and they all like to eat fish out of the water. Do they all live necessarily by the sea? No, but do they all favor water? Yes, because they favor fish. So white-headed sea eagle, I think that's a very appropriate Latin name for our bald eagle. So it is also our national symbol. By an act of Congress in 1782, it became our national symbol. And there are some rumors out there about it being our national symbol, and Benjamin Franklin may be opposing that. And so I'm going to address that issue right off the bat. Anybody, if you've heard of that, you can give a thumbs up or say it in the comments that you've heard that Benjamin Franklin did not want a bald eagle to be the national symbol, but rather he wanted the turkey to be the national symbol. That's the story, right? Many people swear by that, and I'm going to address it head on because I did a little research into this. I said there's got to be more to the story. Benjamin Franklin in 1784 stated some things that made it sound like he didn't like the eagle. So it was already a symbol of, by act of Congress, our national symbol. But what did happen? That he was for the wild turkey? Well, let's see. Let's see what the actual writings were of Benjamin Franklin. So in 1784, he wrote a letter to his daughter. So this is not an official letter to Congress. It's not official movement that law that he wanted to write or act of Congress or anything like that. This is literally a letter to his daughter that this story has been born out of. And I'm going to just read it for you because it's rather comical reading it nowadays as to what he has to say about the eagle. It says, for my own part, I wish the bald eagle had not been chosen as the representative of our country. There it is. He did not want the eagle as the representative of our country. True fact. Okay. All right. He is a bird of bad moral character. He does not get his living honestly. You may have seen him perched on some dead tree near the river where, too lazy to fish for himself, he watches the labor of the fishing hawk. And when that diligent bird has at length taken a fish and is bearing it to his nest for the support of his mate and young ones, the bald eagle pursues him and takes it from him. Is this true? Absolutely. There's the picture to prove it. They are bullies. They don't always get their fish honestly. They do like to steal. They like to bully the other smaller birds and get the food the easy way. Okay? So he has a point. Can't argue that. You can see him stealing this. He made that osprey drop the fish for him right there. With all this injustice, it is never a good case. But like those among men who live by sharping and robbing, he is generally poor and often very lousy. So he has some pretty rotten words for this bird. Besides, he is a rank coward. Oh, we're taking it up a notch. The little kingbird, not bigger than a sparrow, attacks him boldly and drives him out of the district. This is a picture of, yes, a kingbird attacking a bald eagle. This is true. The kingbird is known for its aggressive behavior, and in fact, its scientific name is Tyrannus tyrannus. No explanation necessary. It is aggressive. It will chase off hawks. I've seen it myself. It'll chase off eagles. The funny thing is that its name is a kingbird. Okay, so keep that in mind as I continue to read this. He is therefore by no means a proper emblem of the brave and honest Cincinnati of America. That's a society of uh, Revolutionary War generals and leaders and things that were keeping in touch post Revolutionary War to keep the uh, patriotic spirit alive and to just keep connected and things. And so the symbol of that is this. Okay. So this little kingbird, of course, king, they did not like that word. The king was what they fought against the Revolutionary War. So the kingbird drives out this bird. How are we going to use this as a national symbol? And he says, besides, the honest Cincinnati of Ohio, who have driven all the kingbirds from our country, see, all of these generals drove them from the country. I am on this account not displeased that the figure is not known as a bald eagle, but looks more like a turkey. So this is the emblem of the Society of the Cincinnati, and he's making fun of it. He says it looks like a turkey, not a bald eagle. For in truth, the turkey is in comparison a much more respectable bird with true original native. It's a true original native of America. Eagles have been found in all countries, but the turkey is peculiar to ours, and that is true. Turkeys do not live anywhere else but in the Americas. Eagles are all around the world. He is, besides, though a little vain and silly, a bird of courage, and would not hesitate to attack a grenadier of the British Guards who should presume to invade his farmyard with a red coat on. There you have it. He did not like the bald eagle, and he made fun of the symbol of the Society of Cincinnati, calling it a turkey. But I don't see any words in here saying that officially he would rather have it. He just is kind of in jest making fun. As to whether or not he would have actually made a motion to make it our national symbol is up for debate. But in a letter to his daughter, nonetheless, it was not an official act, but a fun story nonetheless. And the things that he said about the eagle are in fact true. So there you have it. Let's look a little bit more into the range and habitat of this bird. Of course, we've already talked about that they are a sea eagle. Their habitat thus is lakes and rivers. So if you're not going to typically find them away from lakes and rivers unless maybe they're in migration. They like lakes and rivers because their main food source is typically fish. And so they don't want to wander away from a food source. So anywhere that you see in this range map we've got here, you're going to want to look in places where there's large rivers, such as the Grand River here in Ottawa County, or the Macatawa River, or Lake Michigan. You don't often see them away from those water sources. So the map on the right, which is the range map, shows purple, it shows navy, it shows yellow and red. It's a little overwhelming. The red means that's where they're nesting in the summertime. They abandon those red areas during the winter time and come south. The purple is where they are year round. Okay, so they can be there spring, summer, fall, winter, the whole year. The yellow is where they're sighted mainly in migration, but not in between. It's not an entirely accurate map. I have not seen updated maps. I want to see an updated map because it shows us in the yellow, and we actually should be in the purple on this map. The navy is the winter. So those are areas where they will migrate to in the winter. So they shift their location in the winter time. Now, this is variable during the year because if it's a really cold winter with lots of ice, then if their water source gets frozen over, they will leave those areas, even if they're in purple, they'll leave those areas to go further south to find open water, or maybe go move around locally to whatever open water is left. That's why some people see large congregations of eagles at open water in the middle of winter when it's really cold, because it's the only open water left. If there's lots of open water, people start asking me, well, where are all the bald eagles? I'll say they're here, they're just spread out across the landscape. So their range is really, especially in the winter, related to the temperature and the weather. And they move north starting in the beginning of March. So we are right on the precipice of eagle migration. And their biggest movements into Michigan from the birds that migrated south for the winter up to the north in Canada for the summer are starting to move through once we hit March. There, now I've already gone through the seasons there. All right, let's move on. So we're going to move into identification. And this involves several slides because they don't look the same as their youngsters and growing up for the first 4 years. In fact, in the first year, they generally look like this. It's a large brown bird with white mottling. They've got a black beak instead of a yellow beak, and they're white mottling under their wings and tail. And notice the mottling on the picture in flight. You don't necessarily see all the mottling of a perched bird. So oftentimes a perched bird, or even sometimes a bird in flight, will get misidentified as a golden eagle. They have a solid brown breast and belly, so it can be very easily mistaken. But look at the mottling underneath the wing. It's very kind of uneven. On the tail even, you see a little bit of mottling. So what about golden eagles? Do we have golden eagles? We do actually have golden eagles. And you see they winter down here, but in very, very low numbers. This is a golden eagle. They're solid brown. And when they're in flight, they actually have a white dot under the wing, not the mottling. And their numbers through Michigan, since they're so small, they become a very rare bird. I've only seen one in Ottawa County one time in my 13 years working here. But are they here every winter? Probably. Are they moving through every beginning of March? That's the best time to find a golden eagle in Ottawa County, is probably the beginning of March. And they cross at the Mackinac Straits at about the 10th of March. They get their high numbers of birds coming across. So there are some, but they're very rare. So there's a juvenile golden eagle on the left and a first-year bald eagle in the middle, and then an adult golden eagle on the right. And you can see the defined patches on the young golden eagle versus the mottling of the first-year bald eagle in the middle. And of course, the adult golden eagle is all the way solid, and none of the bald eagles will be like that unless they have a white head and a white tail. The second and third year, they generally have this brown bib and a white supercilium, that eyebrow stripe over the head. You can see the white coming in on the crown of the head. The yellow is coming in on the bill. And you can see the bright yellow feet. You can see shadows of a bald eagle, but it's kind of like it's got opposite colors. You got the white belly and a dark head. So little interesting. But then as we get into the fourth year, now you can see the bald eagle coming out. Nearly adult-like. They have got a dirty head, a little bit of mottling underneath the wing, and they've got that black tail tip too. And of course, this is all in transition, so you can see a bird anywhere in between what pictures I've shown you and an adult bald eagle. But by the fifth year, this is what they look like. So it takes 5 years for them to mature, and during that time, they wander around all over the country. A bird hatched in Michigan may end up all over to the West Coast and the East Coast and back and forth. They are wandering souls looking for a mate, and by the time they're old enough to breed at 5 years, then maybe they've found a mate and settled down somewhere, and it may be anywhere here in North America. So it's quite a range for these things, and the obvious things about the identification are the white head and the white tail. Pretty unmistakable with an adult bald eagle. They've got dark brown wings and body, and of course that large yellow beak and those large yellow feet and talons. They're pretty big. The female wingspan is over 7 feet. The males are a bit smaller, and when you see them perched next to each other, male and female, you can tell the difference. If you see them apart from each other, it's rather hard to tell the difference between male and female. But when they're next to each other sitting, you can see the smaller one is the male bald eagle. 3 feet tall when they're perched. That's a big bird. Big bird. 36 inches tall. You can imagine what that is. That's above your knee between your knee and your hip, somewhere in there, or up to your hip, depending on.
Looks like we have Curtis is frozen for just a minute, so we'll um, maybe the wind blew over at the Nature Education Center, and hopefully we'll get him back here in just a minute. Oops, there we go. Hi, Curtis. Oh, you're on mute.
What happened there?
I don't know.
For a second.
You froze for a minute, so yeah.
Okay, my Zoom just shut down and then it restarted automatically, and I was like, "What just happened?" I didn't press any buttons. Sorry about that interruption. Okay, I
You
was
are
saying,
good. We're all good.
okay, turkey vultures. I was saying they have already been sighted back in Ottawa County, which is interesting that they're here. So be on the lookout for turkey vultures flying through. They're an unsteady flyer versus a bald eagle is a very steady flyer with their wings straight out rather than up in a dihedral, and they don't teeter around a lot.
Curtis, could you share your screen again? It must have stopped sharing when you.
Stop sharing too. Wow. Okay. Thank you for letting me know. I will do that. There we go. Is that
Perfect.
better?
Yes, thank you so much.
Okay, let me get situated. There we go. Okay, let's get this going. So what do they sound like? Here's the fun part. Anybody anybody know? This is the bald eagle sound, right? Do you hear that? Can you hear the sound? Oh, you can't. Okay, I've got it playing on my speaker here. If you've watched a Jeep commercial or any other patriotic ad or movie with a bald eagle flying over, it says here, right? That's what the bald eagle says. It is not what the bald eagle says. That is actually a red-tailed hawk. So that sound, the keer, it's all a show. It's a more regal sound, but it's the red-tailed hawk that makes that regal sound. And the reason they have to dub that in is because the sound of the bald eagle is rather unimpressive, shall we say. And I'm going to see if I can pull it up on my phone here and put that right up to the speaker so that you can hear it, if it's not coming through on my presentation. Here we go. So this is what it actually sounds like. Can you hear this? No. Still not. Okay. Well, what I want you to imagine is that you are listening to a seagull sickly calling to other seagulls going, it's not a regal sound. If you were to dub that back into all the movies that you've ever heard the bald eagle do the keer sound into, you'd be like, why in the world do we have that sound playing right now? It probably would have been another good reason for Benjamin Franklin to say no to this bird being our national symbol. Oh, so what do they eat and how do they hunt? Well, fish, as I stated before. That is their main source of food. You can see that picture up in the upper left. That's got to be Alaska, where you get the salmon runs. They all get along and they catch salmon because there's plenty of it, but they swoop in and they catch fish off of the top of the water because they've got such great eagle eyes, right? Literally, they've got eagle eyes to be able to see from a long ways up, swoop in, catch the fish on the water. Is that the only thing that they eat? No. In fact, they will eat waterfowl. I have seen them eat and catch a sick seagull. Ironically, sick seagull, they make the sound. But they will catch about anything that seems to be injured, maimed, sick, that doesn't seem like it would have an easy time getting away from the eagle. It will take advantage of that fact and will not just eat fish, but will eat other animals as well, including carrion. So roadkill, especially in the wintertime when we get really cold winters, the only exception to what I said earlier about them going further south to find open water to fish is that they will find deer carcasses and eat on the deer carcasses to make up for it. So this is when you would find them away from water, and you might find them out in a cornfield or something where there's a dead deer that got lost and ran away from a hunter, was injured and died, and or roadkill right along the road. So they are carrion eaters too, and that's supposedly one of the functions of their white head, is that it is easier to kill parasites with the sunlight, etc. So they are a bit of a scavenger. And I'm going to probably skip by this video. Well, I wonder, is this going to show up for you? See if this, yeah, okay. You might not be able to hear it, but that's okay. But this is one doing the regal fish catch here in slow motion, so you can see what's happening. It'll show it in real live motion, and you'll just see how fast it is. Just like that, the fish is gone. You can hardly tell it's caught anything at all. And I will tell you, I have seen this happen before, and it is quite a sight to see a bald eagle swoop down and catch a fish. If any of you have put it out, have done that, put it in the comments. Would love to hear if you witnessed that feat of a bald eagle. Well, as you mentioned, Katie, it is Valentine's month. It is just this last week we had coffee with the birds on Valentine's Day. We all love birds, so hey, it was quite appropriate to celebrate birds on Valentine's Day. And you know what bald eagles are doing around Valentine's Day? They're doing their courtship and mating. Typically, right now is the time when they are doing what I call the pre-nesting behavior. Okay, and a lot of that, well, they are monogamous. These pairs are monogamous year in, year out. They'll stay loyal to each other. Unless something happens to one in the pair, then they will pair with another bird in the future, and try to maintain the nest that they're at. And they do these aerial displays where they go high up in the air, they latch talons, and they spin. And they fall toward the earth, and then they separate and fly off. And that's supposed to be pretty, impressive to the female, I guess. Sounds like quite a wild ride to me. But because they do this behavior, it's long been thought that, or common knowledge, that they actually mate on the wing, and that is actually not true. This is just a mating ritual. It comes before the actual mating, and I will prove that to you. Because this, if you recognize this view, this is Grand Ravines. Back in 2017, I was witness to the behind-the-scenes actions of our bald eagle pair. You can see them, one of them up in the tree there in the sycamore. And I can tell you for sure, this is the she, was sitting there waiting and calling. And then the male came in, swooped in, landed next to her. And can you see the size difference? The male is on the right, the female is on the left. You can see, especially in that picture, she was calling and probably telling him that, yes, it's time. And they both were getting excited, and they did their pre-nesting behavior on a branch, not up in the air. Quite a sight to behold. I felt very privileged to be able to see that. I don't know that they saw that I was watching. but this is how the baby eagles are made. And after that, it was like magic because it was a cloudy day, but as soon as they were finished and separated on the branch, the sun came out and just glowed down right on them. And it was very magical. But what comes after that? The nesting. So they both build the nest and keep it from year to year. The nest is typically at least 6 feet across, and they add to it each year. And so it can be huge. It's not only 6 feet across or larger. This one actually looks larger than 6 feet across. They actually I had that on there. Deep. They have a very deep bowl, and some of those bowls, depending on how old the nest is, can be. I've seen records of 20 feet deep. So, and weighing 2 tons in a tree. That's got to be a strong tree to hold that up. Our nests around here are not that large, but they can be very, very big and very deep. If you think about it, you will have baby eagles. You don't want them going over the railing, right? So you want it deep. And so that means for a long time, we don't necessarily see what's going on in the nest unless there's a nest cam. So typically they're laying eggs by the beginning of March, and they lay 1 to 4 eggs. Now I had 1 to 3 on there, and I have to put the 4 on there because Grand Ravines last year had 4 birds, had 4 nestlings that fledged out of that nest. So at least 1 to 4, depending on food source, food availability and things. They lay them asynchronously, which means one every 2 to 3 days, and they incubate starting right away, which means that 35 days after that first egg was hatched, that first chick is hatched. The other eggs don't hatch until they're about 35 days old. So maybe every other day or so from that point on, you get another one hatched. Well, the last one is going to be the runt of the litter. And it is pretty, here you see the first one hatched, and there's an egg left. They are hatched as semi-altricial, which means their eyes are open, they have some fuzz, but they're not able to fly or run around, things like that. Killdeer are known to be precocial, where they can get up and run around right away. These guys are not, but they're not born naked and blind either. They're hatched at 60 grams. That's the weight of a Skittles package. Okay, but they can grow at the rate of 180 grams a day. So that firstborn is going to be quite a bit bigger than the secondborn and the thirdborn. And if there's a fourth, that fourth one to be able to survive is quite amazing. There's got to be a lot of food, and it's got to have some strong will to fight against its brothers, because it's no holds barred in a bald eagle nest. Those older siblings are going to fight over every last scrap of food to survive out of the nest. So sometimes not all of them will survive. Nestling care, of course, it drives the parents crazy. Once they start growing, the adult has to feed itself, the female, and the young in the nest. Once the female gets big enough, or excuse me, once the young get big enough, the female can leave the nest for short periods of time to help with the food gathering. But it is a lot of work for mom and dad until they both can leave and the young can defend themselves at the nest. Because the risk is leaving these youngsters at the nest, other birds and animals can raid the nest, eat the eggs or the young. And keeping the nest clean, these little guys know how to do it. They actually, I'm not going to show you, but they will actually go to the edge of the nest and poop out of the nest. They don't poop in the nest. They actually throw it out of the nest. And so they're very good to keep the nest clean. And that's why you see it all over the tree branches and things around these nests. Fledglings, if they fledge the nest, they have a 70 to 90% survival rate. So that's a pretty good survival rate. They usually fledge by sometime in mid to late June, at least by the 4th of July. They should be fledged around here. And they look like this. After the first year, if they make it through their first year, they have an 84 to 90% survival rate. And they can live 15 to 20 years in the wild. The oldest in the wild is 28. In captivity, they can live up to 47, which is quite old, but that's pretty common that in captivity they live longer. I'm going to keep moving along because I want to tell you this story about the Grand Ravines bald eagle nest. So in 2009, Ray Stodema, some of you may have known Ray Stodema. He has since passed, but he was a huge park supporter, was on the Parks Commission for a long time, and lived at Grand Ravines. His widow still lives there, Alma, and he's donated property to the parks to expand Grand Ravines. Well, he found this nest. And we don't know if it was there prior to 2009, but at least since 2009, every year there's been a bald eagle nest at Grand Ravines, at least that area. Let me explain. From 2009 to February of 2014, this nest was active. But in March of 2014, it fell down. And we thought, oh no, these birds are going to move away. What are we going to do? It's been I would do bald eagle walks. We'd go see the nest, that kind of thing. Well, what did they do? In spring of 2014, they built another nest on the other side of the river at the Grand River open space. Proof again that preserving habitat on both sides of the river makes it attractive to these eagles and gives them the space to do what they need to do to survive. And so they put it up in this hackberry tree for that year. And even in that year, they had not yet laid eggs in March, but they built this nest, laid eggs, and raised 3 in that nest that year. So successful nest. By December of that year, they were already rebuilding a nest on the other side of the river. If you know Grand Ravines, it's a nice view of the river. And I like to say that Mrs. Eagle liked the view better from the Grand Ravine side rather than the low spot and the open space side. So they built another nest, even though nothing was wrong with the other nest, a third nest here. And in the spring of 2015, they raised 3 eaglets in that nest. So that's nest number 3. However, here's Ray with in the past, they've banded the eagles, so he got a chance to go along with that. They don't do that anymore. Here's some more pictures from 2017. In the fall of 2019, the nest fell again. And in 2020, they built another new nest 50 yards away from that nest. So this is nest number 4, but it's nest number 3 within probably 50 yards of the original nest. Okay, they love that spot. And in 2020 to 2025, the nest continues. We'll see. I haven't been there recently to see what kind of activity is going on with the cold weather. I think they may have moved off of their nesting site temporarily and will be coming back once things thaw out like it is now. And we'll get started on nesting activities again this year. But with all luck, we'll have them there again this year. And if you want to experience the eagles at Grand Ravines, then join our Bald Eagle Bash this year. This is new information. The newsletter is not yet out. It is in draft form right now, but I can tell you that April 25 and 26, we are doing a Bald Eagle Bash at Grand Ravines with all kinds of programs and walks. Now, you've had the Bald Eagle presentation, but this will be given again at Grand Ravines Lodge. Well, twice on each day, I'll be giving this presentation about the bald eagles, so you can have it again or invite somebody that would like to learn about the eagles. And 4 times each of those days, I'll be helping to lead, and other staff will be leading bald eagle walks to get a close-up look at the bald eagle's nest. And you can see some photos from those programs in the past. It is up onto private property, so it's not a regularly opened place to the public and gives you a better look. And there'll be some family-friendly activities, and we're working on more things to fill out that schedule. Real quick, I wanted to go over this, and then we'll wrap this up. Historically, bald eagles have been common. I mean, way back. Prior to European settlement here, they were very, very common in North America. However, in the 1900s, with the invention of DDT and other poisons to control insects and such, it got into our ecosystems, and impacted the bald eagles and their nesting survival rate because the eggshells were not hard enough to survive even the weight of the eagle sitting on them. They would break and they would not survive. So their numbers fell to about 417 pairs in the lower 48 states. And we're not including Alaska. That's a little bit of a different story. But 417 pairs in 1963. So 1967 Endangered Species Act protected the bald eagle. And in 1972, DDT was banned. From that point forward, we had an increased population of bald eagles. You can see the chart as it grows. It was a slow growth at first, but it was starting to become an exponential growth. And in 2007, they were delisted from the Endangered Species Act with a population approaching 30,000. In 1995, they were threatened. And in 2007, like I said, they were delisted with about 10,000 pairs. In 2010, they were at 30,000 pairs. And in 2020, they were at 71,400 pairs. So that's an increase of 71,000 pairs during that amount of time, which is amazing. 40 and 20, we got 60 years, and we got 71,000 pairs. You double that for the number of eagles. So it's quite a success story. It's something we should be proud about in our conservation history here in North America, both for preserving the habitat and reducing the impact of our pesticide use on the eagles themselves. So now the estimated population size, well, this is as of around 2020 with data from 2019, 316,000 eagles. That includes youngsters as well as those that are paired. And the largest population is in the Mississippi Flyway, which we are technically a part of. So there's also a comeback story in Michigan, 52 pair in 1961, and only 34 young were produced. But along the same trajectory as on a national scale, bald eagle nests increased, especially in the early 1980s on until in the aughts. You can see the breeding bird atlas in the 1980s versus 2002 to 2008. The population was increasing, breeding was increasing, and in 2012 we had 684 breeding pairs, 718 young produced, and in 2015 786. So we're going up even more. And in 2021, there's an estimated pair because of the delisting of the bald eagle. Less money was going toward research, and so there's not as much specific information about their population anymore because we don't need to have it. That's a good thing, but it still is like, how many eagles are there? We get that question. And we're like, well, enough to not have to worry about it right now, and that's a good thing. But over 900 breeding pairs in 2021 in Michigan. There's continued threats of lead shot being used for duck hunting that gets into the fish because the lead shot goes into the wetlands and the fish eat it and then the bald eagles get it. So lead shot, we like to say don't use lead shot. Collisions with towers, habitat loss are all things. We recently, last year or so, had a bald eagle die because of electrocution. If they sit on a wire and they spread their wing and touch another wire, they create a circuit and can die. So that's another threat to them. But their population is moving faster than any threats right now. And to wrap it up, in Ottawa County, where can you go to see bald eagles? In 1993, we had our first bald eagle nesting in recent time, in my lifetime, I should say. Lake Macatawa. It failed for 3 years and was abandoned, but in 2000 was the first productive nest. So they've been nesting in Ottawa County successfully since 2000. In 2013, there were when I started working for the parks, it was about 6 nesting pairs with 5 successful and 7 young. And by 2015, 7 nesting pairs. Since then, again, no hard numbers due to the lack of research, but the numbers seem to be growing. There's definitely more nests than that. It's probably near double that if I'm to put a number to it, but that's just kind of guessing. Local viewing, great places to go. Grand Ravines is the favorite because we've got a nesting pair there, and that nesting pair is fairly friendly. I wouldn't apply that attitude of that pair to every pair of eagles ever. They all have their own personalities. This pair has gotten used to people being around and has continued to build its nest there, doesn't mind, but always treat them with respect and from a distance. Upper Macatawa Natural Area has a nest off of the 84th Street entrance across that first wetland mitigation site. Lake Macatawa has at least a nest. Ottawa Sands has a nest across the Sag now over by the gravel mining, the gravel business. And Crockery Creek has a nest, and there are others out there as well. But these are some of the favorite places to go. Spring Lake, I know, has a couple of nests as well. In migration, you can see them along the Lake Michigan Coastal Greenway. And of course, they're nesting along the Grand River Greenway. So that intersection there at Ottawa Sands is a special place where those two greenways that are so important for eagles and a lot of other migratory birds intersect. And of course, Ottawa Sands is that crown jewel of the intersection of those two greenways. In winter, always check harbors and lakes with open water. Pigeon Lake, Lake Macatawa, Grand Haven Harbor tend to be good spots where they will accumulate, where they will concentrate. And I realized that I was running out of time. I'm going to now thank you all for joining today for this presentation. Thank you to the foundation for giving me the opportunity to present it. And I want to ask if there are any questions with the remaining time.
Thank you so much, Curtis. This was so awesome. Such cool information. Everything from learning that they're bullies to hearing their love story to knowing all the places to spot them. This was so cool. And thanks so much for giving us the opportunity to give folks a little sneak peek before it hits the presses, before anybody else knows. You know, we're so grateful to have you join us today and to share some information. As Curtis said, if you have any questions, please pop those into the chat. And we've got just a couple more minutes here, and he has some time to answer probably just one or two questions if you've got them. Curtis, looking at the chat, there are some really nice comments here. The size chart was really, really cool to look at the different sizes. I was looking at the wing formation as well, and I often get confused from a distance on what is a turkey vulture and what is a bald eagle. So knowing those different flight patterns was really helpful to hear as well. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Let's see here. We had somebody mentioned that the eagles are back at the nest at Millennium Park. One has been in the south nest for the last 2 weeks, so that is very cool. And you had mentioned a couple things about the human factors that contribute to eagle death. Can you review those real quickly one more time?
Yeah, so the biggest one, obviously, is the historical connection with the DDT, which was a chemical that was used for mosquitoes and a lot of other insects to get rid of them. And they would spray this stuff in neighborhoods to reduce mosquito numbers. And that DDT then would get into the wetlands, into the waterways, and would be absorbed into the plants and then absorbed into things that were eating the plants, all the little invertebrates and things that were eating that. Then the small fish eat that, the larger fish eat the smaller fish, and it accumulated. It's called bioaccumulation, went up the food chain, and every other larger creature would have a larger concentration of those chemicals in them. And so that was what was then being eaten by the bald eagles, was basically a pill of, DDT that was impacting their shell strength. That's the greatest threat. The current threat to the bald eagle would probably be habitat maintenance and the health of our wetlands and ecosystems. And one of the largest reasons I would say that we have them now is because of conservation efforts for preserving the habitat that can accommodate these bald eagles. So groups like Ducks Unlimited and the duck stamp program and things like that, hunters, honestly, have had such a huge impact on the dollars that are spent on conservation issues that they actually have had a huge impact on the bald eagle's return. I don't know, is that kind of answering the question? Is there
That's
something else about it?
perfect.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you so much. That was really wonderful. And again, thank you for joining us today. I also want to thank Angela, who has been our tech master today in facilitating our Zoom here. We want to let you know if there's any way that you would like to get involved with the Ottawa County Parks Foundation. We're really interested in hearing from you. You can go ahead and scan that QR code that's on your screen, or go to our website, which is also linked there, and find out more ways that you can support your Ottawa County parks and programs like what Curtis is doing, and all sorts of other opportunities. The foundation is here to support your Ottawa County parks above and beyond what some of your millage dollars support. So thank you so much for doing that. We would really love to get some feedback from all of you on, this is a new program that we're doing, these Parks and Purpose, and we'd love some feedback from you. So we will be, there is a little survey for folks to fill out. If you get an opportunity, I think Angela will drop that in the chat. And we'd like to hear more from you on what you liked about this program, other programs that you would like to see or hear. And then also want to show you what we have coming up next. Is our next program will be with Jason Shamblin, the director of the Ottawa County Parks and Recreation, and we'll be sharing the year-end report of all of those amazing things that have happened over this past year. And we'll also be sharing the Parks Foundation year-end or annual report. So you'll be able to get some behind the scenes information from Jason and the Parks Foundation in that program on March 27th. And with that, I just want to once again thank Curtis and thank all of you so much for joining us here today. So have a wonderful Friday afternoon, and we'll see you out in the parks.
Thank you so much.